Well, I think one of the interesting things that we could recognize is that globally the economic data has been ridiculously bad, right? I mean, Germany recently, the UK with inflation, Japan with inflation. We know China's struggling, their economy's struggling. And so what's kind of intriguing to me is that the dollar's not getting a bigger bid, considering that the economic data here has been really actually pretty good comparatively. So it's almost like, okay, so if that's not giving the dollar a bid, does that potentially mean that when the U.S. economy starts to weaken, which, whether it's in 3 months, 6 months, a year, at some point it will, does that then mean, do we have a bigger rollover? And again, it is kind of interesting with the chatter about de-dollarization. Janet Yellen recently saying that, people should actually diversify away from U.S. dollars a little bit because it probably won't be the only currency out there. So yeah, it's kind of interesting because, again, yeah, the economic data globally has been really, really weak. You'd assume the dollar would be ripping right now.
While many parts of the U.S. are off for an extended long weekend, market action has been tame. Bitcoin began the Tuesday business day in Asia past the $31,000 mark at $31,153 as the world's largest digital asset rallied on Monday after a few prospective Bitcoin ETF issuers refiled their applications. Enthusiasm for Bitcoin is growing, propelled by efforts to revive spot Bitcoin ETF applications. Rachel Lynn, CEO and co-founder of Sin Futures. Its commanding presence in the crypto market is increasingly evident, making up nearly half of the industry's $1.2 trillion market cap, the most dominant it's been in over 2 years. Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, Gareth Soloway shares with us his prediction for crypto, stocks, as well as the macro picture. So without further ado, let's get started with the video.
Yeah, so one of the things that's kind of caught my eye with that thought process, and it is something that's kind of perking my ears up a little bit, is that we've seen prices continually decline. But now over the last 6 months or 8 months, the stock market has started to reaccelerate to the upside. We know that we're not that far off of the all-time highs now. And, tech stocks are going nuts. We've seen all that. And then also you can look at like Japan's recent data on inflation, and that's started to almost uptick a little bit, as well as the UK. So it seems like there's little pockets around the globe where you're starting to see that. And it does make me wonder with the stock market going up. In fact, the other thing to mention too is housing has started to uptick a little bit again as well. And again, certainly we did not have you wouldn't call what happened in housing a correction. I think maybe prices went down 5%. It was like a pullback. And one of the charts I want to show here is mortgage originations by age. And again, the age is almost irrelevant to me. I'm just more focusing on massive amount of mortgages taken here, which was good because interest rates were really, really low. But one of the things, and this is always the rebuttal I get, well, if people got these loans at 3%, they're not walking away from them. But at the same time, I think people aren't taking into account the fact that inflation has skyrocketed, right? So you have to look at what these people now are paying for food, energy, all these other things, in addition to their home price or their mortgage payment. You also talk about if the labor market starts to crack. I mean, how much of this comes back to roost? And do we see a wave of people saying, yeah, well, I took a mortgage at 3%, but if you can't pay your 3% mortgage anyways, what ends up happening?
The first hours of July 3 have already seen a crypto project losing multi-million dollars in a hack without any visible impact on the broader market. Meanwhile, widely followed crypto influencers are sure about a Bitcoin ETF approval in the coming months. BlackRock refiled its spot Bitcoin ETF filing and named Coinbase as its previously unstated surveillance sharing partner. This news comes after a tumultuous week for would-be ETF filers. Citing improper paperwork, the United States Securities and Exchange Commission put a temporary halt on ETF applications from BlackRock, ARK, Valkyrie, WisdomTree, Invesco, and others, prompting a flurry of refiling activity. Blockchain interoperability platform Poly Network may have lost more than $5 million in a hack that exploited Ethereum, according to the latest findings by security firm Biosin. Attackers have stolen about $10 million after liquidating ETH from Poly Network. Nonetheless, they may have failed to liquidate about $260 million due to poor market liquidity. It has been just under 2 years since Poly Network's last hack, wherein it lost an astonishing $600 million, thus becoming one of the largest bridge hacks in Web3 history.
To be honest, I think Bitcoin dominance is still going higher. I know you're in the same thought process of that. And I think what investors need to recognize is that last week we got the SEC to say that the Bitcoin ETF filings for the spot were inadequate. And so just naturally, that's going to make Bitcoin investors a little bit more hesitant. And then I also think you have a lot of speculation. I mean, just going back to the stock market and tying the stock market in right now, the stock market has been so strong, like every day floating up, that eventually what people do is when everything, like you're looking at some of these stocks that have just gone parabolic, they start to look for what hasn't run. And so I think there's just this natural thing of saying, oh, well, these altcoins are so low, I'm just going to give it a shot, which just creates that little bit of a bounce. So you have the negative of Bitcoin with the SEC, even though it wasn't that big of a deal, saying that the ETFs were inadequate. And then you have this kind of risk on kind of thought process where you're then pushing the alts up a little bit. So at least for me, that's kind of where I am at. The Gary Gensler resigning news fake. And the answer is yes. At this point, there's absolutely no doubt about it. I saw the same things on Twitter the last 24 hours about him resigning. But if you look at who broke the news, it was like crypto news, cryptoalerts.com. Like it wasn't a reputable source. And then just for everyone out there, one of the things I do, so anytime I hear a rumor and I want to know if it's true, I go look at the underlying asset. And the fact was that Bitcoin yesterday barely budged. If that news was true, smart money would have known it even before we heard about it, and price would have gone nuts. So I would remind people is like, there's a lot of crap on Twitter out there. You got to be really careful, but always go back to price action. You're never going to be the first one to hear the news. I'm never the first one to hear the news. Smart money knows way before us. So if price isn't moving when you take a look, then it's not true.
July 3 has been a relatively better day as far as crypto regulations are concerned. For instance, Hong Kong regulators appointed a new Web3 task force to oversee and ensure sustainable crypto development in the region. The announcement comes in a bid to boost Hong Kong's crypto-friendly regulations. Recently, Hong Kong Monetary Authority, HKMA, pressured banking firms including Standard Chartered, HSBC, and Bank of China to accept crypto exchanges as clients. Meanwhile, the United Kingdom is taking more steps to clarify crypto's definition within the legal purviews, days after granting regulators the power to introduce and enforce rules to regulate the crypto sector. On July 3, the UK Law Commission proposed to create a special category of personal properties to integrate cryptocurrencies. The Commission said the new category would enable them to accurately recognize different types of digital assets, ranging from cryptocurrencies to digitized instruments.
Yeah, so with Litecoin, I mean, amazing move. And again, I think partially it's the halving, and then also partially it's probably one of the few other coins that's classified in the Bitcoin realm of not being a security, but in that kind of same commodity-ish area. In terms of the move up, this is the daily chart. We can see it went right up into this resistance level, which is a pivot from right here. For one, I think also, let me just see here. I want to draw another trend line from this low here to this high. Yeah, you can see. So there's a confluence of resistance levels up in this 112 level. So once you make a move like this, for a technical trader, you never want to chase it, number one. Number two, it needs to digest the move. So you're essentially looking for a bullish consolidation move, which would be kind of like a 45 to 90 degree angle. Kind of like what we were talking about with Bitcoin dominance maybe happening, that consolidation, right, where it had a big run. Now it needs to kind of digest the move before it can make that next move up. So amazing move on Litecoin. I mean, I don't know if you have any insights into that. Like would this be something that you would be a buyer on a pullback, or you're kind of like, nah, I'm sticking to Bitcoin, Ethereum, and these? Yeah, and I mean, just sentiment alone, I mean, it's pretty remarkable, the crypto sentiment right now, specifically in regards to Bitcoin. Seems like anyone that was on the alt train has now moved into the Bitcoin train, and it's pretty wild out there right now in terms of bullish sentiment. And I would say, so I see a question here about, I talked previously, over the last year, that Bitcoin could potentially decline by as much as 85%. That data point came from past cycles about how much it dropped in each of the past cycles. It was somewhere around that. I actually think that it also has to do with how much of a decline we saw in Amazon. If this was the .com bubble bursting in crypto, it was also looking at Amazon as being kind of the child of the .com bubble, and Bitcoin obviously being the one for crypto. And so if you look back at Amazon back in 01, it bottomed out down about 85+% when all was said and done.
So what's your price prediction for Bitcoin at the end of 2023? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.